right. Well, good evening, everyone. I hope that y'all are settled from long commutes or signing off from online work desks here. Just want to welcome you to Mount Sinai's Health Spotlight for today. We will be talking about sleep awareness. I don't know about y'all, but I need some sleep awareness. I need some tips to better enhance my sleep. So today, joining us, we have Dina Barnwell, and she's going to talk to us about why we should care about sleep, how much sleep do we need, what happens when we don't get enough sleep. I'm sure I can relate to some of those, and how to get more quality sleep. And so, Dina Barnwell is a nationally certified health education specialist. She's a certified health worker. She holds a bachelor's and a master's degree in health sciences. Dina is a huge promoter of sleep, so we're going to be best friends after this. And sleep hygiene, because it's a significant contribution to wellness. When she's not asleep, she works in administration for a university and hosts health workshops for workplaces and wellness and community events. So let's welcome Dina. Hello, how are you?
Hello, hi, I'm great. How are you?
I am doing well, but I'm sure that I am going to benefit from this presentation today. I need some more sleep. So,
Yes, and thank you for having me to have this presentation today. It is Sleep Awareness Week. So there's lots to talk about sleep going on all across the country, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
awesome.
Um, I saw and I realized that, this is a virtual environment, but your church is actually in Trenton, New
Yes.
Jersey. And I spent about 3 years, a few hours away from Trenton and Newark. And I will say, I learned how to drive in Kansas, but then I came to Newark
Mhm,
and New Jersey,
mhm.
and y'all do something totally different on the roads up there. So I had to, I didn't
Mhm.
prepare. I was not prepared for New Jersey driving. So I had to actually go back to Kansas for a little while and kind of regroup and get
Okay.
myself together. But
Okay.
thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. I'm so happy to have you here.
Let's see. Let me share my little presentation I got
All right.
here.
Sleep Awareness Week. Man, I feel like I just have not been a good supporter or promoter of this week myself. I feel like when you have a week that's dedicated to sleep, I almost right when you have a some type of like celebrate, you should do more. You should contribute more to the celebration and the recognition of the week, right?
Yes.
I think I did the opposite. So, but next year I will be ready. I will be ready next year.
Brady, here we go. Oh. Okay, can you see my little slideshow here?
Yes, there we go.
Okay, great. So again, we are talking today about sleep hygiene, or AKA how to catch more Z's. Just another little intro of me. I am the mom of a 14-year-old son, and I have a 5-year-old cat named Jackie Poo. I have the degrees in health sciences, certified community health worker in Maryland, and a certified health education specialist. And so this is a little weird for me not being able to interact with the whole audience, but if you could share, what is your go-to activity when you cannot sleep? Do you have something you like to do when you can't sleep? So if you're in the chat, feel free to share it. So again, we're talking about why sleep is important, how much sleep we need, what happens when we don't get enough sleep, and how to get enough quality sleep. So sleep. Okay, sleep is important because it helps us with a lot of important functions. First, it helps us learn, memorize, and recall information. So a lot of us, I don't know if we have any remembrance of being in school, but we like to cram. We'll stay up all night the night before the exam and try to cram everything in. However, science shows us it's actually better to go ahead and, study, but then get a really good night's sleep, because there are certain parts of your sleep cycle that are really important for helping to recall and memorize information. Then it also aids in decision-making, solving problems, controlling emotions, coping with change, creativity, mood, and motivation. It helps our body heal and repair, and our blood vessels also are repaired during sleep. So there are some processes that happen with our heart and our blood vessels where our blood pressure rises and falls, and our body engages in these functions to help repair anything that needs to be repaired with our cardiovascular system. It also helps us maintain healthy levels of hormones that regulate appetite, blood sugar, growth, cellular repair, and other functions. Give me 1 second. Don't know. Let me get back. Let's see. So there was a little issue with this slide going on there. But it also helps maintain healthy levels of hormones, again, that regulate appetite, blood sugar, growth, cellular repair, and more. And so while we're sleeping, if you are actually engaged in trying to lose weight or weight loss, we're often told you have to get enough sleep. You have to get enough sleep. Well, that's because a lot of those hormones that are important to those processes are regulated while we're sleeping. It's also necessary for proper immune function. So if you want to stay healthy, if you want a strong immune system to be able to fight viruses, then you have to get enough sleep. It also gives us our bodies a break from our daily functions. So we're going about the day, paying attention to this thing. We're working, we're taking care of our children. We're trying to stay focused on the road. All these things that our brains has to expend energy to deal with. You get a break from a lot of those things at night. Now, sleep deprivation can be harmful to our health. And we're going to get into this later, because there are a lot of what we know about the importance of something is what happens when you don't get enough of it. So we know why drinking water is so important, because we see what happens when you're dehydrated. And so that's the same for sleep. Now, how much sleep do we need? So there's this core band of hours. Most adults are going to need about 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Now, that can change based on our circumstances. So if you're not feeling well, if you notice you actually sleep a lot more, or sometimes pregnancy can also affect sleep needs. I'm going to try and see if I can share the slides one more time. Let's see here. Okay, hopefully you can see the slides there again. Now, this is one of my favorite quotes. It is, "Laugh and the world laughs with you, snore and you sleep alone." Now, that's one of my favorite quotes because it's facts. There are a lot of, laughter is contagious. And I can actually give a whole talk about laughter and its benefits to the body, because it's amazing what just a good hearty laugh can do. But if you notice, when you start laughing, other people just start laughing. You don't even know what's funny. Sometimes just seeing someone laugh makes you laugh. But snoring, on the other hand, is not always a good thing. Now, what happens when you're actually sleep deprived? And so this is what I was mentioning earlier, that a lot of what we know about how important something is what happens when you don't get enough. And so mental deterioration, this one is important because our cognitive function, which means our ability to focus on a topic or respond, it starts to decline after being awake for about 16 hours. But when you get to about 20 hours of sleep, our mental function is similar to someone who's actually legally drunk. And so if you are riding, like say you're driving, a lot of times you are required to respond quickly. You might have a car coming into your lane or a ball rolling into the street. And if you are, sufficiently rested, you might be able to react properly. But if you are not, if you are at 19 or 20 hours, your mental functions have slowed and you're the same as someone who is legally drunk. There's also a 33% increased risk for dementia. And I will get the slides out to everybody who would like to see them. And at the end, there's references. I don't want you to think I'm making this up. I want to show you the science and all the links of where this information comes from. We're also more likely to experience depression, anxiety, and irritability. And I know on some of these levels, we can relate to this. I know I can. If I haven't gotten enough sleep, my coworkers kind of know that when I walk in the door. So they'll come in, okay, we'll give Dina to about 10 o'clock before we come to too many things. So it is important for sleep and for your mental health. Physical health. So less than 6 hours of sleep per night has been associated with a 200% of an increased risk of fatal heart attack and stroke in our lifetime. So if you remember earlier, I mentioned that a lot of functions for repairing our heart and our blood vessels happen while we're asleep. And so if we're getting less than 6 hours of sleep a night, our bodies can't perform those important functions, and it increases our risk of fatal heart attack and stroke in our lifetimes. Now, after just one night of 4 to 5 hours of sleep, there is a 70% reduction in critical anti-cancer fighting immune cells. So we have cells in our bodies whose whole job, they go around and they look for other cells that are not behaving properly. And they handle and they deal with those cells. But after just one night of getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep, there's a 70% reduction in those cells. And so this is another reason why it's important. And that's just one night. So if it's long-term, if it's chronic, if we're not getting sleep long-term, then it puts us at risk. Now, physical health, men who only get 5 to 6 hours of sleep have the testosterone levels of someone 10 years older. So it actually ages you on a hormonal level for men. There's an increased risk of catching a cold. And so this ties back to what we were saying before about how it's essential for proper immune function. Less than 5 hours of sleep has been linked to a 500% increased risk of obesity. And, we're all tying this all back to a few slides before where we were sharing that the sleep helps regulate those hormones that are related to appetite, blood sugar, and other important functions. Short sleep duration has been has predicted our risk for developing 3 types of cancer. So that's breast cancer, prostate, and colon. So the short hours of sleep has been associated as a risk for these type of cancers. And that could also relate to what we were saying before about the 70% decrease in anti-cancer fighting cells after just one night of 4 to 5 hours of sleep. The World Health Organization classifies nighttime shift work as a probable carcinogen. And so a carcinogen is some type of substance or behavior that has been associated with increasing the risk of cancer. And so nighttime shift work, working overnight, has been identified as a probable linked to this to cancer. Now, part of this is because people who work overnight are trying to sleep during the day. It's difficult to sleep during the day. The family's up, people are mowing their lawns, the cars are back and forth up and down the street, and then there's light everywhere. So if you do work overnight, it's really important to get some of that, those curtains that block out the light so they can be really dark. Now, did you know that there is a 24% increase in heart attacks the day following daylight savings time in March? And we actually just went through daylight saving time, and it's maybe some good news because the Senate has just voted to end the practice of daylight savings time. So springing forward every March and falling back in the fall. But that is, and hopefully if that comes through, that would be very good for our health, because not only is there an increase in heart attacks, there has also been an increase in vehicle accidents and workplace incidents the days after daylight savings time. So if you're still adjusting to that transition, try to get some naps during the day. And I'm going to clarify on naps, we mean like short 20-minute naps early in the afternoon. We're not talking about 5-hour naps in the middle of the day. That's pretty much sleep. So we want to make sure that we're getting the right amount of sleep at night, and that can be affected if we take naps too long in the daytime. Now, some of these common sleep problems that we deal with, and I just want to let you know. So again, this is for education purposes, but if you are experiencing any of these things, or if you're having any difficulty, talk to your doctor. They know you best, they know your history, and they are in the best position to advise you on how to move forward. But insomnia is trouble falling or staying asleep. So a lot of people think insomnia is like difficulty falling asleep. But if you are constantly waking up all night, if you can't stay asleep, that's also one of the definitions of insomnia. Sleep apnea. And so that's when your breathing stops and starts throughout the night. Restless leg syndrome, which a lot of people are surprised is in the sleep problem category, but it's this urge, this overwhelming urge to move your legs throughout the night, and it's uncontrollable. Narcolepsy is sudden attacks of sleep. It's overwhelming. I have a client or someone that I work with, and he could fall asleep at a stoplight. I mean, just that 60 seconds waiting for the light to turn, he is knocked out. And so it affected his driving. He had to actually reduce his activities in those areas and stop driving because it could be dangerous. But narcolepsy is like, you can't control it. You want to stay awake, but you just cannot. And then jet lag, I think a lot of us are familiar with jet lag, in that it's when a lot of times you experience it when you're moving time zones. So I kind of went through that when I came from Kansas to the East Coast. I'm just getting used to it. But, the more time zones you jump, it's a more noticeable effect. So if you are used to being on the East Coast and then you have to travel to the West Coast. Night terrors, that is fear. Some people experience fear, intense heart racing, screaming in the middle of the night that keeps them from staying asleep. And then sleepwalking, which, you're getting up and you're walking around. And a lot of us, what normally happens is when we go to sleep, our muscles, there's this chemical that kind of makes them stay still so that we aren't acting out our dreams and getting up and running around the house. Or, I had this dream where I was racing my kid. He is 13 and he thinks he's the best runner in the world. And he can run faster than me, but I can run longer than he is. And we were kind of joking with each other about that before bed. And, when I went to sleep, I'm dreaming about winning this foot race. And so it's good that my muscles did what they were supposed to do. And I stayed in bed, because otherwise I would have been doing laps around my house at 3:00 in the morning. Now, the most common sleep disorders are insomnia, sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, and narcolepsy. And then some of the more common signs of fatigue are yawning, blinking frequently, and difficulty remembering events. And we're going to talk about some tips for good sleep, because we talked about how important it is and what happens when you don't get enough, but how can we get more sleep? And not just more sleep, but quality sleep. The first thing is one of the tips is to create a sleep routine. So a lot of us are creatures of habit. Our bodies, our minds, we prefer the known. And so if we can get into a routine that lets our bodies know, oh, it's about to be time for sleep, then we're more likely to be in that state of mind and be able to fall asleep. So some of the ways you can do that is you can do the same thing before bed each night. Some people, okay, I'm going to take a bath. I'm going to read. I'm going to sit in this space with this blanket. And then that's what I'm going to do every night. And that's how my body knows, okay, it's time to go to sleep. You could also do hot tea if you're interested. And what I do is I have an iPhone, Team iPhone, and it has a function where you can set your sleep schedule. So every night it lets me know in 15 minutes it's about to be time for sleep. And then it actually shuts off all of my notifications so that I'm not constantly getting dings and rings. And then if your phone has that function, like I have it where if my son calls or my mom or my dad, it'll automatically come through, even so I don't have to worry about something happening that's super serious while I'm at sleep. But all the other notifications are shut off. Make sleep a priority. So a lot of times we do everything else and sleep is whatever's left. So I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to check off all the things on my to-do list. And now there's only 4 hours of sleep left. And I guess that's all I have. But sleep is important enough to be a priority. You should set how many hours of sleep you need a night and then build your day around it so that you are prioritizing or getting enough sleep. It's right up there with eating a healthy diet and having enough physical activity. Stick to a regular sleep pattern. So again, we are people of habit. We love habits. So you get up the same time, you go to sleep the same time, even on weekends. My kid hates this. He wants to be up till midnight on the weekends, but you can shift your sleep about an hour in each direction, but it's always best to just stick with a regular sleep pattern. I also advise people, if you need to make a change, start preparing yourself for that in advance. So if you know that your shift is going to change or right before daylight savings time, we always have people start rolling your clock, change it 15 minutes, start waking up later or getting up earlier. Slowly adjust your sleep over time so that when you really need it, you are in that habit versus, just wait until that morning of your new job or daylight savings and then just expecting to flip that switch and everything's fine. Prepare your environment for sleeping. So this one is important. I'm actually one of those people who does not have a television in my room because rooms are for sleeping and not movies. But it's mainly because of the light. So there is a new study that was actually just posted that said even moderate light exposure, it harms your heart health and reduces insulin resistance. And I just read this article today. It was posted by the Baltimore City Health Department. But we have lights everywhere. There's lights coming in from outside, from the street lights. If you live in an urban or a city environment, some TVs have little lights on them. Even when they're off, there's still a light shining. If we have alarm clocks or things that have lighting in them, those lights tell our brain that it's daytime, even though it's night. And so it kind of tricks us and affects our ability to be able to sleep well. You also want it to be cool, not too hot. It can affect our sleeping if it's too warm in the area, but definitely have that environment. So if you have, I like to take lavender spray and put it on a pillow. Lavender scents have been known to help sleep. But what you can do to make that environment that lets your brain and your body know this is where we sleep. Now, avoid caffeine and cigarettes. So caffeine is typically like coffees, some green teas have caffeine in them. And those having caffeine is what's called a stimulant. So they awaken your nervous system. They put your brain on alert. They give you energy. Cigarettes, a lot of people mistake cigarettes and don't realize that the nicotine in them is a stimulant. And that's because a lot of times when people smoke cigarettes, it relaxes you. But what's happening is when your body starts kind of getting used to nicotine, your body tells you need more. When you don't have that next cigarette, you get anxious. Your body has anxiety trying to get you to get that next cigarette. So when you smoke one, you're actually just calming your body's request for more nicotine. But nicotine itself actually makes you more alert. It gives you more energy. You just feel relaxed because taking that cigarette calms your body from telling you, I need a cigarette, I need a cigarette. So you want to avoid caffeine and cigarettes, limit alcohol. So a lot of people think alcohol helps you sleep because you fall asleep so quickly after it. But alcohol is actually not good long term because it gets you to sleep quicker, but it affects your quality of sleep. So we have different cycles of sleep that we go through each night. And when we drink alcohol, it limits some of our ability to move through those cycles, so we don't get quality sleep. Specifically, it affects the cycle of sleep that's known for memory consolidation. So where some people will drink and say, oh, I don't remember what happened, alcohol actually prevents or limits the part of sleep that helps us consolidate memories. So we want to limit alcohol or avoid it. We mentioned this earlier about the naps. I mentioned this earlier about limiting naps. I said snacks, naps to 30 minutes max and no later than 2 p.m. And so the goal here is to kind of rejuvenate us and get us the energy we need, but we don't want to interfere with the ability to sleep all through the night. Avoid lying awake or checking electronics when you can't sleep. So a lot of us, if we aren't able to sleep, we'll roll over, we'll grab that phone and see what's going on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. And then 2 hours later, we're still watching videos. Or we are reading something, and you might read something that kind of gets your heart rate up. I don't know if you've ever read an article or check the comment section of a post, and it got your heart rate up. It got you upset, or it got you reacting to something that you saw. So getting involved in those things actually can make it more difficult to get back asleep. So I like to do things that kind of comfort me, but doesn't wake me too much. And one of my favorite activities is reading. But definitely avoid the electronics, again, not just from what you might read, but then also the light that can trick your brain into making you think it's time to get up. And finally, especially if you need it, see a professional. There are places who do sleep studies. They can answer all your questions. There are machines, if you have sleep apnea, that you can use to help you stay awake. To help you sleep and help you continue breathing. But you always, because sleep is so important, it's not something we want to take lightly. So if you're unable to go to sleep or stay asleep, please definitely talk to a doctor or a professional so that it can help you. It's like sleep is if you can sleep, it's one of the easiest things you can do to improve your health. You're really just laying there and your body is taking the wheel. And so you want to use that process as much as possible. And then that is it. If there are any questions, and when I send this out, these are the links that I mentioned that will be in the slides that I will share with everyone, so that you can read more about what has been said about sleep. And then this whole week is Sleep Awareness Week. So Monday was National Nap Day. I got my nap in, I'm very proud to say. And then Friday is World Sleep Day. So this is a time, if you ever wanted to know anything about sleep, it's everywhere. The information is out there. So you can always reach out to me or do a quick Google search through the National Sleep Foundation, and you can learn about our sleep cycles and other things that can help us get more sleep.
Thank you, Tina. I have a couple of questions. Ooh, this was a lot of good information. Okay. Can we go back to the sleeping at night versus sleeping during the day? So I know you talked about kind of some of the barriers, right, around being able to get sleep during the day. Again, family being up and about, the sun being out and, ready for the day. But is it really just around like getting the proper sleep if you are going to sleep during the day, like making sure the environment that you're sleeping in is prepared for that quality sleep? Or is there really something chemically linked to sleeping at night, getting that sleep at night?
So what's interesting is that a lot of times we kind of forget, but we are part of nature. Like we're connected, with our environment, with the sun. We are in tune with the sun cycle. So when the sun comes up,
Yeah.
we get our energy. That's the sun literally energizes us. And they say, for example, to help deal with the daylight savings time, they say get out and get into the sun because it helps get your body back on a normal clock or in sync. And so we are designed, our bodies, there are a number of functions that automatically start to slow down when the sun sets. So we are at our best when we are in alignment with that natural cycle. But, we also have to live, right? And so some of us have to work overnight. And the goal is if that is what we have to do, there are ways that we can do it better.
Definitely. Now that made me think of two things. I'm a night owl. I feel like you're saying when the sun comes up is it's when people's energy rises. I'm like midday on is when my energy rises. I'm a night owl.
Let me say that a lot of the information that we get is based on research.
Sure.
And what they do, these are studies where, we'll study thousands or hundreds of thousands of people and try to generalize this research to the entire population. But nothing works for everybody in every case. There's always going to be an exception or someone who, is different, and that's fine. And that's why we always say, like, this is what the research shows, but before you change anything, talk to your doctor because they know you best.
Yes.
And they would be able to say, oh yeah, but you're good.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like there are some people who don't need 7 hours of sleep a night. But we like to say, for the majority of people, 7 to 9 works best. But I'm like not a morning person or a day person. I'm like 11 to 3 p.m.
Okay.
That's when you got me. And then after that, it's all downhill from there.
Yeah. If it wasn't for work, I'm telling you, man, I would just start. If my day started at 11, that would be the prime working time for me. But it's okay. We adjust. That's just as creatures, we adjust. So
yes.
And something that, I know when we were kind of in talks getting this program together, you also work with, and correct me if I'm wrong, you also work with babies in terms of parents who have, whether they're new parents or just balancing, children. So 2 questions, and, feel free to go into some of the additional kind of work you do around there. But with the sun, how does that work with babies? How come they don't align? I'm sure that there are some poor mommies and daddies out there who just wish that they would align with the sun. How does that work?
It's interesting. It made me laugh. I have a cousin who just had a baby, and he posted, why nobody told me babies are only adorable from like 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. and then they're monsters. And I'm like, no, they're pretty much the same all the time. It's just we're sleepy during that time. So it feels worse to us. Yeah. But babies, actually, they sleep a lot. Newborns, they sleep because they are going through so much growing and developing, and their bodies are doing so much. And so it's really difficult to get them synced up because they sleep so long. They need so many hours.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is a lot of times we keep babies indoors. And so sometimes, it could be the case of them not being exposed to sunlight or not being out, which, can be important for protecting them, especially in our current environment. We're dealing with the thing that I won't say, but it's,
we don't talk about Bruno.
I'm like, I don't want to say the word anymore, but it's, a lot of it is just the fact that they need so much sleep.
Wow.
There
Okay.
is, as they get older and they start needing more sleep, there is the potential to kind of get them on that pattern, but it takes a lot of work because you have to keep them up a little more during the day and play with them and be active. But a lot of times, as soon as they fall asleep, parents are like, bet. And then they just go and they run and do errands and do whatever they need to do.
Yeah.
So they're sleeping a good part of the day and then they're up.
Yeah.
So it definitely, there is some ways to get them on that schedule, but in the beginning, they just need so much sleep.
Yeah, no, I love the idea. So no kids, but one of my best friends, she just had a little baby. And so it's just interesting when you're saying, it kind of makes it full circle with our conversation and saying that, in order to grow, do repair on our, internally on our bodies, right? And I think of babies, right? They're going through so many growth spurts, right? Which could also, which makes sense why they would be sleeping for, so many hours at a time. It just makes a full circle, like, being able to sleep for long hours like that. So I think that is quite interesting. I if she's watching, if not, I'll be sure to share that with her.
Well,
Maybe take Junior out to the sun.
Well, definitely she wants to, talk to the child's doctor before doing anything. It might be more beneficial to not be outside.
Okay.
Depending on what's going on in the world at the time. And so of course, the priority is the child and the mom's safety.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Last little question here. I know we're running short on time. One thing, especially I will say in the African American community, I feel like we do not prioritize sleep. And I guess, and again, largely, right, it's due to whether work and just responsibilities throughout the day, but what would you say to encourage, or what tips would you offer in terms of prioritizing sleep and just being more as a way to be more efficient to continue to do the work that you need to do?
This is a passionate question for me, because our community actually deals with a lot of chronic diseases. We have very high rates of things like diabetes, high blood pressure, and a lot of those things can be influenced by the lifestyle choices that we make. And so if we see, what we shared here today, getting enough sleep helps your body repair. It helps, the blood vessels. It helps, regulate hormones. Like these are very, very important things. And we don't have to do anything to do. Like you just have to lay there. I'm a person who likes to be tricked into being healthy, right? So
yes.
I'm not going to go to the gym. It's not me. I'm not going to go to the gym and get on a machine and do it. I go to this extreme dance step class.
Okay.
Where it's music that I love and I'm dancing and I'm sore the next day, but I didn't realize it was happening. And so a lot of things that we do seem like a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to do this thing. Sleep is just like lay there. The body's like, chill. I got this.
Yes.
Lay right there. And I'll take it from here.
Yeah.
And I think, it's one of the easiest ways. And I'm saying easy with quotes because a lot of people have truly have difficulty sleeping. Sure. And I'm not minimizing that. And I definitely suggest, if you have difficulty sleeping, see a professional so that you can get the help you need. But for those of us who aren't necessarily facing a condition that's preventing sleep, it's like literally one of the easiest things you can do to be healthy. Get in that good environment, get in that sleep, the right amount of hours of sleep and quality sleep. Yeah. And so you want to eliminate all the things that could affect it or make sleep. It's quality and quantity. Like a lot of people say it's quantity or it's not an either or, it's if and. So it's both. We need enough hours of sleep and we need it to be quality sleep so we can get all of those health benefits that were mentioned here. If there are other questions about it, definitely ask.
Yeah.
But I think in our community is most important because high blood pressure,
Yeah.
it runs in my family. They started checking me. They were so afraid of high blood pressure with me that I had one high blood pressure reading and they were ready to put me on medication. Like
Wow.
that's how much of a history of high blood pressure I have in my family. But getting enough sleep, you know, your body is going through and working on those blood vessels. Your blood pressure is raising, it's falling, it's repairing, it's doing what it needs to do to help you stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Diabetes is also big in my family. And so, you know, regulating those hormones, the blood sugar,
Yeah.
the insulin resistance, those things that contribute, the obesity, the contributing factors to things like diabetes.
Yeah.
A lot of them are, you know, are handled by our bodies while we're sleeping.
Right.
So I mean, you know, if you can be that simple,
Yeah.
let's do it. Let's take care of ourselves.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. You know what, Dina, this has been awesome. One thing, just to leave our audience on today, I know we talked a lot about, you know, seeking a professional. Tell us a little bit about, you know, who is defined as a professional, and what are some resources that people can, so I know you shared the articles that you used for this presentation, but what are some professionals or what are some resources that folks can reach out to should they have questions or have any of these symptoms that they're experiencing here?
Yeah, so I'm going to always say start with your primary care physician, and I really hope everybody has one.
Yes.
Just because that person knows your history, they see you every year at least,
Mm-hmm.
and can best advise. It's also important to know, you know, if you have insurance, what's covered.
Yeah.
I'm all for taking care of our health, but I also realize that certain things cost money, and it's not just falling out of the sky for most of us. And so I wouldn't say, you know, just go to that place because you could end up with a bill.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely talk to your primary care physician first. That's the first step. There are sleep places. I took a group here on a field trip to a sleep center where they actually hook you up, you know, they put stuff and notes on you when you sleep, and they monitor how many times you wake up and you know, if you stop breathing. But I would always say just start with your primary care physician first if you have specific concerns. If you're just looking for general information, the National Sleep Foundation is a really good place to start. They actually host Sleep Awareness Week.
Okay. Yes.
And have all the information, and they have links to other websites for more information.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I know I learned something good today. Lots of good information. And just thank you so much for being here and sharing Sleep Awareness Week with us. I promise I'm going to do better.
Thank you for inviting me. Like you said, this is important. This is an important thing. And a lot of us don't realize how important it is. And that's why we put it on the back burner. So thank you for having me. And, you know, thank your pastor and your church for, you know, spotlighting this and, you know, making everybody's physical health also a priority. So that's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Any more questions? We'll share Dina's PowerPoint, her contact information. But that's all we have for our March Health Spotlight. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.